We'll call to order the Board of Zoning Appeals. Are you ready? Okay. If you'll please stand for the pledge. Joe, if you'll pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. We have a sign-in sheet that's passing around that'll really help us for our minutes. So please sign in when you get a chance. Call the roll, please.
Gary Farley.
Here.
Veronica Buchanan. Jerry Sartain.
Here.
Joe Michoto.
Here.
Michael Rather.
Here.
Jared Barrett. Zane Cantrell.
Present.
We have a quorum.
You have the minutes of our last meeting in hand. Are there any changes or additions to those minutes?
If no changes or additions, I move to approve it.
Have a motion to be approved. We have a second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. They are passed. After each of the items that come before us, we will have a public hearing. In the public hearing, those of you who wish to speak, we ask for you to come to the podium and give us your name. We also ask that you try to keep your comments within 3 minutes. We have a large group here tonight, and we want to make sure that everybody that wants to will have a chance to address the Board of Zoning Appeals. Let me assure you, we take all of your information very serious, and we take it under advisement. We have studied the issues. It's not like we don't know what's going on. So you don't have to give us an epistle about everything, but say what you need to, and we don't really need to repeat what everybody else has said, but you use your own judgment on that. But I'm just trying to help you to how we can get through this public hearing each time. We do thank you for being here and giving us your input on anything that comes before us. Now, also remember, we're not changing any zoning in this. There's no zone changes. This is whether the property is appropriate to be used for that. No zone changes from us will be coming forth. The fireworks that we have before us, just to explain that to you all, they have been fireworks stands at most all of these places for a number of years, and we do check them very often. They are regulated, and we get information back about each one of them on whether they have lived up to the recommendations of the Board of Zoning Appeals. So we'll move through those very quickly. We will ask our staff to give us information about each one of them, where they're located, and then we'll go back and have a public hearing on each one of them, and then make a decision on whether we approve them. Gary.
Mr. Chairman, before we get started on the fireworks, I want to clarify something and let it be known. I don't feel it's a conflict of interest. However, I just want it to be known that in my job as director of the State Fire Marshal's Office, I regulate the license and the permits for these fireworks across the state. So what I'm going to do tonight, I'm going to listen and vote my conscience after I hear the discussion on each one of these matters.
Just as long as you don't burn them down.
Exactly.
Okay. We'll go ahead with the fireworks stands. What do you have on those, please?
Okay, I'll go with the first applicant for a fireworks stand. TNT Fireworks. And if I could just get my slide to advance. This location is at 6137 Epps Mill Road. It's Zone Employment Activity Center. They have been located here ever since since 2008, since I arrived, and they've located in the same place on the property, in the corner of the property along Forbes Drive. We've never received any complaints regarding the operation of the stand from this site. It's a very busy site with lots of traffic. And we find that it meets the criteria for conditional special exception approval. And that is TNT.
Yeah, just keep going through.
Application 2017-17 filed, 18, filed by Absolute Fireworks, involves the location at 5975 Lebanon Pike, the property zone commercial services. This is located at the Dollar General Strip Center, located towards the intersection of Jefferson and Lebanon Pike. They have been located at this location for several years without any complaints being received of the operation of the tent from this location, and we find that it meets the criteria for temporary special exception approval. Application 2017-19 involves the property at 2706 Las Casas Pike. It's a commercially services zoned property, and this is also located at the Dollar General along Las Casas Pike, and they'll be using this portion of the parking area for the tent, and they have been located at this site since 2012 or 2013 without any complaints. Application 2017-20 filed by Absolute Fireworks involves the property at 6121 Highway 99. It's a commercial neighborhood zoning district, or commercial services. And it's located at the Dollar General, so they like Dollar General parking lots. And we've not had any incidents of any complaints regarding the fireworks stand from this site. And in most cases, you have considered adjacent properties for the other fireworks vendor from the previous month, so they'll be next door to Surefire Fireworks. These are photos of the surrounding area. Application 2017-21 involves the property located at 9243 Old Nashville Highway. Absolute Fireworks wants to operate their stand from this commercial neighborhood zone. And it's located at Baker Road and Old Nashville Highway, and they have been here since before 2008. So we've never received any complaints. I did get a call from the property owner wondering what the sign was, and then when I informed him it was for the fireworks, he thought we were trying to rezone the property, so that was clarified. Kind of concerning at first, but. Application 2017-22 filed by Absolute Fireworks involves the property at 3892 Shelbyville Pike, Commercial Services Zoning District, and this is one of their newer sites. I think in 2013 they first started locating here, and we've not had any issues of them operating their stand from this site. Okay. Absolute Fireworks is requesting an application 2017-23, a new location at 3299 Las Casas Pike. It's a commercial neighborhood zone. And this is the location. There's a market here. A couple years ago, we considered a temporary vegetable stand here, which has no longer is located here, but they would like to use this site for their temporary sale. And we don't anticipate any problems because of their compliance with all of the other applications that they have received from here. And that concludes our presentation.
Board members, are there any questions about the new site? Anyone? Okay. All right, we'll go back to TNT Fireworks. Do we have anyone here representing that? Okay. Thank you. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this request. Close the public hearing. We have a motion on it.
To be approved, Mr. Chairman.
Have a motion to be approved. Have a second. Call a roll, please.
Gary Farley,
Yes.
Joe Machado,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
Michael Rather,
Yes.
Zane Cantrell.
Yes. Do we have anyone here representing Absolute Fireworks? Okay, thank you. We'll go through these. Public hearing on 5975 Lebanon Pike. We'll open this for a public hearing. Close the public hearing.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Have a motion be approved.
I'll second it.
Second. Call the roll, please.
Gary Farley,
Yes.
Joe Machado,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain, Michael Rather,
Yes.
Zane Cantrell.
Yes. The next item is at 2706 Las Casas Pike. We'll open that for a public hearing. Close the public hearing. Have a motion on it.
I move to approve.
Second.
Have a second. Call the roll, please.
Gary Farley,
Yes.
Joe Machado,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
Michael Rather,
Yes.
Zane Cantrell.
Yes. The next item is at 6121 Highway 99. We'll open that for a public hearing. Close the public hearing. Have a motion to be approved.
Second.
Have a second. Call the roll, please.
Gary Farley,
Yes.
Joe Machado,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain, Michael Rather,
Yes.
Zane Cantrell.
Next one is at 9243 Old Nashville Highway. We'll open that for a public hearing. Close the public hearing. We have a motion on it.
So move.
Have a motion to be approved.
Second.
Have a second. Call the roll, please.
Gary Farley,
Yes.
Joe Machado,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
Michael Rather,
Yes.
Zane Cantrell.
Next one is at 3892 Shelbyville Pike. We'll open that for a public hearing. Close the public hearing. We have a motion on it.
So moved.
Have a motion to be approved.
Second.
Second. Call the roll, please.
Gary Farley,
Yes.
Joe Machado,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
Michael Rather,
Yes.
Zane Cantrell.
Yes. And 3299 Las Casas Pike. We'll open that for a public hearing. Close the public hearing.
Move to approve it.
Have a motion to be approved.
Second.
Second. Call the roll, please.
Gary Farley,
Yes.
Joe Machado,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
Michael Rather,
Yes.
Zane Cantrell.
Now, that takes care of all of our fireworks stands for tonight. The next item is Matthew Carroll, and that has been withdrawn for, is that right?
Deferred until
It's been deferred, okay, till next month. All right. The next one then we'll get into James Watson. What do you have on that, please?
Thank you. Application 2017-24 is a request involving the property at 813 Buckeye Court. It's a request for variance relief of 9 feet from the side yard setback requirement of 10 feet involving a property in the RM zone. And this is the subject property here. The applicant resides at this property. And in 2016, they obtained a permit for the installation of an above-ground pool. However, the applicant was unaware that a permit would be required for the deck, since in his mind it was not a permanent structure. And upon notifying the building inspector that they were building a deck, the inspector informed them that they would need to come in and apply for a permit for that deck portion surrounding the pool. Once the applicant arrived in our office and it was determined that there was a side yard violation, it was within 3 feet of the principal structure, and so that's why we apply the 10-foot setback from the property line. And so the applicant at that point applied for a variance to remedy this situation. We have received one informational phone call regarding this request, but no one indicated that they were opposed to the request. This is the existing home. And you can see the area for which the pool area is located in the deck area. And the applicant supplied us with pictures of the backyard area where you will see the encroachment that goes up to the fence line. And you can see in this photo, that's the side yard for which is affected by the encroachment into the side yard. And this is the area that we are discussing here. And the application itself does not meet all of the criteria, but some of the criteria for variance approval. And that concludes our presentation.
Have anyone here representing this request? You'll come around to the podium, please. Give us your name and any other information you might have.
My name is James Watson at 813 Buckeye Court in Las Casas. I'm the one that put the deck up around the pool.
Do we have any questions?
You didn't have any idea you needed a building permit to do this?
No, sir, I sure didn't, So, I mean, I didn't know I was supposed to be so far from a property line either, I mean, there was an existing fence there already, and I took that fence down and put a bigger fence up to cover up the pool area and the deck itself, but I had no idea.
Did you self-report it?
Yes, sir, I sure did.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I went and got the permit. When I found out, I needed to do it, I mean, I don't know the gentleman's name, Mark, the inspector. He told me I need to, which I was already in the process of building the deck, but he said I need to get a permit, so I got the permit. Well, I tried to, but it didn't work, so that's why I'm here.
Gary?
What about your next door neighbor where the...
Mr. Davis, me and him get along really good. He has no problem with anything of what I've done so far. We've talked about it. He's not here, he's not able to come. He has no problem. We clean each other's fence rows out, and no issues whatsoever.
Any other questions? Thank you. You may be seated. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this request. Close the public hearing.
Motion to approve it, Mr. Chairman.
Have a motion to be approved. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Have a second. Call roll, please.
Gary Farley,
Yes.
Joe Machado,
Yes.
Gary Sartain,
No.
Michael Rather,
No.
Dane Cantrell.
Yes. Is approved. The next item we have is a request by Dorothy Ademeyer, and what do you have on that? I think this is a museum of dolls and cultural artifacts.
Yes, thank you. Application 2017-25 involves the property at 3870 Shores Road. It's a request for special exception approval for the establishment of a museum of dolls and other cultural artifacts located upon the property in the RM residential medium density zone. Ms. Ademeyer would like to establish within the existing residence a museum to display her doll collection as well as other items. And in the future, she would like to construct an accessory dwelling unit on the property as well as an accessory structure that will provide more storage area for her collection and possibly be additional display area. The applicant, now we are not considering the actual construction of these structures because she would be under the zoning if it was continually used as a residence to construct those structures. So that may still occur. However, if it is approved tonight, they possibly would be used in relation to the Dog Museum. The applicant also plans to install a 40-square-foot sign along the road to advertise the location of the structure museum. The applicant does not anticipate more than 265, I think is the number that she listed in her application, visitors per year. She indicated that it's a not-for-profit organization that she's registered as, and the applicant will be here to answer any questions. We have received numerous phone calls in opposition to this request. There were concerns that we were changing the zoning of this property. That's not the case. This will be a special exception within the residential medium density zone. It does not permit commercial use. We also heard from the local the commissioner of this district, Commissioner Gooch, and he indicated that he was opposed to the request changing the structure to a commercial structure, but if we could possibly work with the applicant, maybe there's a compromise that we could arrive at. But the installation of the signage, the changing of the character of the neighborhood, it's residential in nature, you have large estate homes. Those were among the many concerns that were mentioned in the phone messages in opposition of the request. Also, the additional traffic, the insufficient roadway being just a 2-lane roadway. The applicant would have to undergo site plan review if they were to get approval tonight before they could establish the museum. And they'd have to get the appropriate building permits. So these are photos of the surrounding area. I understand that there may be a slight change from what the original application indicated, that the accessory dwelling unit and accessory structure may be located towards the front of the property. That's due to some flooding issues towards the rear of the property. However, I believe it's the applicant's intention to match the existing residence, the exterior materials, as well as the elevation of the area. And that concludes our presentation.
Do we have anyone here representing this request? You'll come around, please. To start by giving us your name and any additional information that you might have and what number of people you would expect to be there.
Okay. My name is Dorothy Addermeyer, and I have an immense doll collection. And I like to share it with everybody else. People who've seen it have been amazed. On the other hand, you know, people who are concerned that there's going to be a lot of traffic, I had a small museum in Westmont, Illinois, which is where I'm from, and if I had 2 or 3 people a week, that was wonderful. So I am not anticipating huge crowds coming to see this museum. In addition, my husband was a collector of all kinds of model boats and things like that. So I also want to include, you know, his nautical museum as a memorial to him. So there is not going to be a lot of people coming here. If there's a big concern about the sign, which is, believe me, not going to go up for at least a year, I expect that it's going to take a very, very long time for me to put this thing together. You know, we can discuss that. You know, it could be smaller. I do have a large sign because I have it in Westmont. It would be nice if I could use it. It's a nice sign. But if it's a problem, we can deal with it.
Any questions?
Ma'am, can you tell me how many square foot this is going to be?
The museum?
The square footage, yes, ma'am.
Well, okay, the house is about 4,300 square feet, and I want to use about, I would say 70% of that house for the museum. And
You're going to build a 4,300 square foot accessory structure?
pardon?
4,300 square foot accessory structure?
No, that's the house oh, I should tell you that this house is really beautiful. It has got this really gorgeous milling in it, and I thought, you know, this house deserves to be seen by other people than just the householder, and so that's why I wanted to convert the house itself to a museum.
It's confusing me. Is the house going to be the museum, or is the accessory structure going to be the museum?
Probably both.
Okay, so how much of the square footage of the accessory structure, not the home, are you going to be building in the back?
I don't think I'm going to put it in the back anymore because of the flooding problem, okay?
Okay.
So
Again,
yeah.
I'm not trying to be rude, but how much square footage are you going to have in the accessory structure?
Accessory structure. What I put in the application is 50% of the existing structure.
So
Yeah.
roughly 2,000 square foot or more?
Yeah, something
Okay.
like that.
And it's going to be a stick-built structure, correct?
It's going to be a very beautiful structure,
Okay.
yes.
Is there going to be electricity, a meter to it?
Electricity to it, there will be water to it, yes.
There'll be water, plumbing, and all that?
Accommodate the ADA people and things.
So basically, it could turn into a residential structure at some form or fashion later on?
Well, I wouldn't say that, because it's like, there won't be a kitchen or anything.
Let me ask for clarification. Just in case there's a transfer of ownership in the future, it could be easily converted back into a residence? Is that what your question is?
It has from what she's telling me, it has the ability to become a residential structure. From her own words, that's what I'm understanding. With the plumbing, electrical, all the whole, you know, there's going to be bathrooms, there's going to be,
Well,
In detached accessory structures, people would be able to, now, for it to become a complete separate residential structure, obviously, they would have to have a kitchen and a bathroom in it for us to consider it a dwelling. But
that could happen, if you go this far, it could happen.
2,000 square foot is a lot bigger than what I had envisioned. That's a house. There's a lot of houses not that big.
I have a lot of dolls.
Who's going to live on site? Anyone?
I am, yeah.
Where are you going to live?
Good question. That's why I need to have an addition to the house, so I can live there. And then my hope is that, you know, someone will succeed me as a curator, and that they will be able to live there as well.
Will live in the primary structure.
Partly in the primary structure, partly in the addition.
That's what we're confused about.
Okay,
If the
so-
accessory structure is not going to have a kitchen, how's she going to live there?
That's why I need to build it in the addition. I guess I got two different names here, the addition and the accessory building. So the addition to the house would have a kitchen in it, yeah.
Ms. Adamauer, how long have you been in Tennessee?
Since January 10th.
Okay. Have you really thought out this proposal?
Well, yeah,
A little bit more complicated than I think what you realize.
I guess you're right.
Okay. Any other questions? We'll close the public, we'll close your part of it, okay? And we'll open up a public hearing on this. If you be seated, we may need to call you back. We open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this. You'll come around over to this point, those of you who want to speak. You'll give us your name and any information you'd like to share.
My name is Lynn Solomon, and I reside at 3910 Shores Road, along with my husband, Hoyle, and Ashlyn, my daughter. We just built our house, and we just moved in there October in the fall of 2016. So far, we really enjoy living in our neighborhood on Shores Road, and our wish is that it remains just that, a residential neighborhood. We certainly welcome Mrs. Adamauer to the community and along with her doll collection. We do, however, have reservations with turning this house in a residential neighborhood into a museum business. Regardless of whether it's opened as a museum business or not, the pictures we have of the two additional structures proposed to be built on the property, one in front and one in the back, concerns us because all of a sudden this doesn't look like a house that fits in the neighborhood anymore. And the structures will be there long after Mrs. Adamauer and probably ourselves are gone. It's going to be there they're going to be there forever. So how these additions affect the appearance of the property and the long-term effect on the entire neighborhood, especially us, since we live right beside there, is a concern of ours. In our opinion, Mrs. Adamauer can accomplish the same thing by simply opening up her home as it is now to anyone who'd like to see her doll collection, and it still looks like a house that fits in the neighborhood, along with the other houses which are part of the residential area. It's not uncommon to drive down Shores Road and see a lot of cars at people's homes where they're having parties or family reunions, and that's okay. We're just concerned about the people coming into the museum, it being a business right where we live. If there are a group of people parked at a house, it's to see any collection, that's okay. We just don't want it to be a business. So we welcome Mrs. Adammeyer into our neighborhood, but we're against the construction of additional structures to include the ADU and additional storage facility, as well as the large sign that identifies this as a museum and business right there on Shores Road.
Thank you very much. Wait just a minute. Any questions? Okay, thank you. Next. Appreciate you staying within the time limit.
My name is Harry Preston. I live at 4367 Shores. We've been there for 16 years. We were the second house in the neighborhood. We've enjoyed our neighborhood, and we welcome any new neighbors, but at the same time, we don't welcome a business-type structure being put in our midst. We are a residential area, and we'd like to keep it that way. That's what we and the rest of our neighbors have invested in. We've put our life savings into, and we'd like it to stay that way. We feel like somebody bringing a business, whether it be for profit or not, it's still a business, and it still brings the extra traffic. It also brings reasons for other people to assume that they might be able to do the same thing, whether that's for business or for profit or not. And we really don't agree with that at all. That's it.
Thank you. Next.
Hello, my name is Daryl Hahn. I live at 3846 Shores Road. My wife and I moved in March of last year. We are there for the property immediately east of this proposed use. We would easily see this 40-foot sign from our kitchen window, and these additions as well. When we moved here, it was and it still remains, a picturesque, open-spaced residential area, and we believe it should remain so.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Paula Peterson. My husband and I reside at 3958 Shores Road. We're opposed to the proposal for an exception to the current zoning for a doll museum. We're concerned about maintaining the residential rural integrity of our neighborhood. My husband and I purchased our home and 6 acres 3 years ago. We're just 2 houses down from the proposed doll museum, and anyone traveling to our property would pass that sign and museum. We moved here from the Metro DC area where there are lots of museums, and that's one of the reasons we selected this property. We wanted to move to an area that's residential and rural. So, of course, we're opposed to the museum moving just 2 doors down from us. We don't want the signage at the road. We don't want the increase in traffic. We're also concerned with the precedent that it sets and opens the door for other exceptions and special events, which we're opposed to. We're concerned with the potential decrease in our property value. Our home is one of those larger estate properties. We have 6 acres, and we're concerned if we should ever sell that we would have a decrease in our investment. Although I've lived here just 2 months short of 3 years, I'm a long-term native of Tennessee. I was raised in East Tennessee, and my family goes back for decades, if not hundreds of years. Oh my goodness, my great-great-great-great-aunt was Bonnie Kate Sherrill. She married John Sphere, so I am, long time Tennessee. This is a threat to our community. We don't need a museum in a residential area. So I speak again for my husband. We're opposed to zoning an exception to a doll museum.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
Hi, my name is Michelle Clark. I live at 3879 Shores Road. I'm directly across the street from the proposed doll museum. I've lived there for approximately 5 years. It's a beautiful area. The area of Shore Road is one that many people enjoy. We have walkers, bikers, runners all the time. And I think this will just be a hindrance to the area. The location is a prime residential area in the county. We have new subdivisions going in, new homes being built all the time. And this is going to be, although we welcome, all of our new neighbors, but the doll museum will be a business. The proposed outbuildings that she's wanting to put in front of the house is bigger than the house that I live in right now across the street. So the house is beautiful, and I think it just take away from the value of all the other homes, because the other homes in the area are estate homes. They are beautiful. The doll museum, the structures and the signage will take away beauty from the area. It will set precedents for other businesses to come in if we make a zone exemption to this. I believe it'll drive down the property value for everyone, because with big sign and a big building in front of this beautiful home, others are not going to want to come in and buy homes near it or purchase and build. So I'm against the doll museum.
Appreciate it. Anyone else? We'll close the public hearing. Is there any discussion on this?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
The size and details of what she's telling us, I'm not clear about. Dolls are certainly some of the quietest things you can have around. Residential businesses are supposed to be unintrusive and virtually unnoticeable. It's the sign that bothers the neighbors, I think. Can we make the motion to approve minus the sign?
Yes, you can put that in here, but this is not just a business. This is a museum, okay? What we've got to decide, is this the appropriate place to place a museum out there, okay?
Based on that,
I know you understand what I'm saying.
based on
Mrs. Ademeyer probably needed to sit down and talk to the neighbors out there and have a neighborhood meeting before she brought this to us. But being new to Rutherford County and Murfreesboro, she probably didn't realize that. And I still, even with the discussion and no sign, and these are dolls and that sort of thing, and some people would like to go and visit the place, but you'd have to have some kind of signage to identify the place. But my question is, are we going to allow museums to go up in the residential areas? There are so many places here in Murfreesboro and Rutherford County that we can place museums and really nice things that she's talking about. And I admire her for wanting to do that. So that's a question I have. I don't know if that'll help.
I think it would be intrusive to the neighborhood, and I'm going to make a motion that we deny.
Second. The motion to deny, correct?
Pardon? To deny.
I'll second that.
Got a second. Any further discussion on this?
I just want to say that the home being a museum, she can display her dolls anyway, however she wants to in that house. Yeah. I don't have a problem with that. I had a problem with building bigger buildings in the front yard, even in the backyard, that big. So, Mr. Sartain's brought up the fact that these things aren't supposed to be intrusive, and I think she can possibly accomplish the majority of her goals if she just wants to open up and display in her house and I mean, you can advertise in more ways than putting a sign out in your front yard. And from what I've looked at with the numbers, it's less than one guest a day.
Yeah.
So, I think that would be a whole lot less intrusive if she could just do it that way, and probably save her quite a bit of money. So I just want to throw that out.
Yeah, that's a good point, and she probably will have a lot of neighbors that want to go over there and look at the items that she has up too. Call the roll, please. This is for denial.
Gary Farley,
Yes.
Joe Machoto,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
Michael Rathard,
Yes.
Jared Barrett,
Yes.
Zane Cantrell.
Yes. The next item of business is a request by Jonathan King, who is requesting a motocross track. What do you have on that, please?
Application 2017-26 involves a property located at 6960 Millersburg Road. It's a request for special exception approval for the establishment of a private motocross track upon the property located in the RL Low Density Residential Zone. This is the property. It's over 217 acres. The applicant would like to establish a motor track for his son to be able to practice, but also make it available to members of the motocross track community and make it available for others to use for practice. And the applicant contacted us months ago to ask what would be the best process to go through with this in mind. And we indicated to the applicant that he would be permitted to have a private track for his personal use on the property without having to go through any process. That it is his right to use his property in that manner. But when you start inviting the general public or having events or providing additional facilities related to the track on the property, it would be best to go through the special exception process based on our experience with similar activities that involve outdoor entertainment. The applicant proposes to install the track in this general area, and we have a better graphic towards the end of the slide presentation that shows where he plans to place the track. However, we did receive some personal visits and phone calls in opposition to the request and a few informational calls. We posted signs on the property. This is the area. It's completely rural in nature. The applicant provided us with a graphic, and we tried to improve it because it was very difficult to see the location of the track area, which involves this open area that you see on the aerial right here. The applicant did provide us with a graphic, though, that we didn't, indicating the distances to the nearest residences. Now, staff is concerned because the application failed to mention the number of people that would be using the track at any given time. If this use is approved, it would be subject to the performance standards relating to noise, dust, pollution, and glare found in Chapter 11 of our zoning ordinance. If we were to take the noise regulations, limitations in mind, the location of the track next to the property line may be difficult for the use of the track to meet the decibel limits established because we do measure sound levels at the property line, and the track just seems to be located directly adjacent to the eastern property boundary. And sorry, that was the last slide. We found that it met some of the criteria, but not all of the criteria for special exception approval, and I'm sure the applicant is here to answer any questions you may have regarding the use itself. That concludes my presentation.
Do we have anyone here representing this request? If you'll come around, please. Just give us your name and any additional information you'd like to share with the board.
Yeah, sure. My name's Jonathan King. I appreciate everybody showing up tonight and being involved with our community. Looks like we've got a pretty good crowd. Let me get some paperwork real quick. All right. Well, I hope that we can answer a few questions and maybe alleviate a few concerns. Just a quick overview. I guess I'm the first neighbor because the track's not for me. The track is, in fact, for my son. He just turned 13. And he's the right kind of kid. So he enjoys this. This is his hobby. He played the traditional sports. He didn't like them. He didn't want to do it. This is what he chose, so I'm going to support him. And it's better if he has other kids to practice with. It makes them a lot more competitive. So as far as what the track's intended use, a bunch of 12 and 13-year-old kids primarily. I do have some friends myself that do ride, so they would come out. As far as number of riders, we're talking 5 to 10. I wouldn't ever foresee more than 30. The track is not intended to be a general use or open to the entire public, more of an invitation only. So, and that was part of our decision in even purchasing this property. We wanted to find one of the most rural properties in the county. I don't think you get a lot more rural in Rutherford County than what this is. Let's see. As far as some of the concerns, as far as dust in Chapter 11, it's really not an issue because we don't participate in dust. No. At a greater level. If you went to a baseball game, no one would sit there if it was really dusty. And we're exactly the same way. We're not going to be involved with a bunch of dust, create a bunch of dust, ride in a bunch of dust, or even be there. There are watering techniques if it is dusty and we do want to ride that we can get it watered and solve that. As far as mud, I know there were some current concerns or issues. A lot of neighbors had voiced a concern about a mud bogging track, which was a misnomer, and I'm not sure how that got started, but there's no mud bogging involved. There's no track. We would never ride in mud. As far as traffic, there would be no discernible impact as far as traffic, especially with that number of people now. Odors. I can't think of any odors that would be emitting from that or to the neighbor's property or their residence. Noise, there's going to be some noise. I mean, you can't run these bikes without some noise, and that's just part of it. We tried to, in our choice in property and our choice in location on that property, to get as far back away from as many people as possible. For the most part, there's a considerable distance between the residents and this location. There's a considerable amount of coverage. I think it's about 217 acres, of which just under 200 is all timber, old growth timber. So pretty good screening. And I think the community in general's had, Aaron Duggan used to have a track in the area years and years ago. A lot of things have changed since then. So I think maybe some of the misconceptions as to what it was then and what Aaron was doing have maybe been transferred over to what we're doing. And those are two separate instances where we're not having hundreds of people. We're not having big events. We're not having loud PA speakers and a lot of people there. And the bikes have changed as far as noise level. The bikes are a lot different nowadays. This is a popular topic, not just here, but throughout the entire nation, about decibels and the sound. So even the manufacturers have taken notice. In the last even 4 and 5 years, the bikes are 30% quieter than what they were. So what that track was down the road is nothing like what this would be. And as far as availability, we're not talking about something that's 5 days a week or 6 days a week that's going to be there. We're running for a points championship right now, so we're going to be hitting the road, traveling the country. So we've got 18 weekends out of the year, first off, that we're going to be at the races. And then if you pull out the basics, we've got horse shows at least another 6 weeks or another 6 weekends, vacations, inclement weather. I went back and pulled a weather report, how many rainy days were there on the weekend. So really it left us, we're out 34 weekends, we won't even be there. So,
any questions?
That's what I was going to ask you. You keep talking about the 18 weekends here, 6 weekends there, you know. When are you going to have time to do this?
The other 18 available. And then during the week, he'll be able to practice during the
More to
week
be
too.
probably the winter time?
Oh, no. No, when it's muddy, then you can't practice, so.
You can do about your son without even coming here. So what makes you come here if you're not planning to expand to do other things?
In discussion with the zoning commission, I think we both felt like it'd be most appropriate to come here and go ahead and apply for the permit.
Okay, your son won't be 13 very long, so what's going to happen to it when he's done?
We'll make that decision as it comes.
Well,
I mean,
those are some of the concerns that we'll be talking about tonight. So we need to kind of know what your plan is.
Right.
Because he'll be 13 and you'll wake up tomorrow and he's gone. Is this now going to become somebody else's, where you have other people come?
Oh, no. The only reason it's there is for him. I have no interest in it whatsoever. I also have no interest in horses either, but we get a whole bunch of them.
Thank you.
Somewhat of a follow-up to what Jerry was talking about. You just mentioned that this is for your son. You've said that several times, but you also said some of his buddies, because it's better to compete with others, which I couldn't agree more.
Right.
But you are not, it's not open to the general public.
Correct.
And you said it's more of an invitation only. Well, I can invite 150 people to my house. That's pretty much, basically saying it's the general public if they have an invitation to come through the gate. So that's my concern, is just the simple fact that you made the application was a concern, but then we've had this issue with model airplanes, and I live out in Leanna, miles and miles from the super speedway, and when they're racing, it's loud. I can hear it in my backyard. So I'm concerned about this going from your son and a couple buddies to 100 people out there, and 10 or 15 on the track at a time. And I know you're saying you just do this on weekends, but, my weekends are important because I'm at work all day during the week. So on the weekends, I like a little quiet, a little more peace, and not hearing noise, and especially not hearing people talk. But I don't understand. Maybe you can clarify what you meant by invitation only. Is that you're sending out 10 invitations, or you've got a mailing list and you're sending them out all over the community? Can you clarify that?
Sure. And I hear what you're saying, I understand your question, right? And I can understand your concern too. And that's why when I first come up, I'd mentioned that I was the first neighbor, because it's going to impact and affect me more than it will anyone else, right? And I have no interest whatsoever in having 100 people out there. As far as, what was the follow-up question?
Well, I don't think you'll be impacted as much because that's your son out there. I have 2 boys, so it wouldn't impact me that much if they were getting enjoyment. My question is, you made the comment that it's for your son and a few of his buddies, and other things would be invitation only, but it's not open to the general public. So my question is, are you planning on sending out invitations for certain events that you're going to have, or little special gatherings? And are there going to be 10 or 15 invitations? Are there going to be 200 invitations? Are there going to be invitations sent out to a certain zip code, and you're going to get 200 people there?
Yeah, thank you for clarifying. I understand a little bit better now. No, as we mentioned earlier, talking about the total number, and maybe I jumped the gun and mentioned it too early in my comments, but typically, I would realistically expect 5 to 10 people, with a max or the most at being 30 total people there.
Joe?
Do you live out there?
Yes. And that's why I mentioned I would be impacted, that I do live there.
Is that 30 people or 30 bikes?
Where's your house located on that property? Is it?
It is, you see where the 6960 is at, the red marker under that?
So is that 30 bikes or 30 people, period?
Generally, it's one of the
Because you got
same.
mamas and daddies and aunts and uncles, trucks with trailers. I mean, you'll get to 100 real quick if you have 30 bikes.
No, we won't. Generally, it's hand in hand. You'll have a parent that'll come, but it's not, practice sessions aren't a big, this isn't a huge spectator sport to begin with, so you don't see huge family gatherings. Now, when you're out at a race and running for a points championship, yeah, you'll see aunts and uncles and stuff, but not with this.
Have you already started building a parking lot out there?
We have some gravel in place for an ag building that's going up that is a parking lot.
Would it be part of this track?
It could be used as such.
How big a parking lot is it?
I don't have the dimensions on me right now.
Is it big enough to fit 100 cars?
Oh, no, definitely not. If I was just ballparking, you could put trucks on there, probably 8, 9.
So how wide is this track going to be? Like 10 foot wide, 20 foot wide?
No, this field that you see on, and that's a good illustration there, it's shaped somewhat like a boomerang. It would encompass the width of what that field is.
I was talking about the actual track.
20 foot.
20 foot, okay. So how many, are you going to have jump ramps on this track? Okay. And then how many on the track at one time? I know you said you or your son and his friend, so how many on the track at one time do you anticipate? All 30 on that track at one time?
No, you would never have that. Part of, you never want, for safety concerns, you don't want any discrepancies in ability or size. So if you've got kids like my son that are on 85s racing in that division, you would never have 250s or 450s out there with them.
So you'd have, okay, so 5 bikes at one time?
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
that would be the maximum, 5 bikes?
I couldn't foresee a whole lot more than that.
Okay, so up to...
I mean, even if we had 20 people show up with the amount of classifications and groups, you've got 50s, 65s, 85s, schoolboy, college boy, super minis, 250s and 450s. So
up to 5 at one point?
Yeah.
Based on the class that you're...
Yeah, realistically.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. The questions are trying to get a good handle on what you're proposing out there. So if you may be seated at this time. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this. I know there's several here. If you have a general speaker to...
Thank you, guys.
Okay. If you have what I was going to say, if you have a general spokesperson, we'll give you a little bit more time.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Patrick McMurtry. I live at 9200 Lynch Hill Road in Christiana. I share an extensive property line with Mr. King. I'm here both individually and as an attorney representing a number of residents who could not be here today, who are in adamant opposition to this motocross track. As an aside, I apparently have also received the Booby Prize because I'm the closest house to the track. And I know that we're struggling with these drawings, and so although they're not perfect, I went up Saturday, 1,000 feet up, And I do have certain photographs that may make all of this clearer.
Start 'em
And so-
over there.
And so what I would do when I get to that is pass those around. I may exceed 3 minutes. Some of us have talked. I believe that I can limit the time of some other people, although residents here do want to say what they feel about this. Mr. King bought this property from Dr. Diamond in March of this year. And in April, he filed the application. Mr. King essentially conceded to you a moment ago that he bought this property with this motocross track in mind. So this isn't a situation where someone's lived there for years, the boy's grown up, he's decided to do this, we all understand. This is a purchase for this motocross track. He bought this land with this in mind and presumed he could get this special exemption passed. And I do want to go back and point out, I think most of us agree that if it's just his son, maybe a friend, he wouldn't need to be here today. And so we're not arguing that. I heard Mr. King speak, and there's a real disconnect between what he's telling you and what this application would allow. And I would respectfully argue to you that literally it's the application that controls. And we'll talk about that application in a moment. But the promises that he made that went from 30 to 5, talked about the parking lot, none of those are binding on him at all. If you were to grant this exception, it goes back to the terms of the exception, which are he could have 150 people over. He could have 30 people on the track at one time. He could have, for all intents and purposes, a public motocross track in an incredibly residential rural area in Christiana. I acknowledge that he is free to use his land in a way that he wants to. But there's a significant caveat that we are not allowed to unreasonably disturb our neighbors. That would include excessive noise, dust, smells, etc. And that's not only the county's regulations, but it's the law of the state of Tennessee. He probably could do this for his son and not violate Regulation 1106. Now, we're going to talk about that because I think I'm the guinea pig for that. But for the purposes of this discussion, I'm not opposed to him trying that. I do believe, though, that the race that he's talking about or the friends that he's talking about would certainly exceed. He wouldn't even do this application. So I want to pass the first picture around, which would actually show the horseshoe. I have 2 copies, Mr. Chairman, if you'd like to see it as well. The horseshoe close up. And you'll see from that horseshoe, you'll see a thin line of trees, and you'll see a house. That house is mine. It's about 600 feet from the property line. Now, with all due respect to Mr. King, when he apparently did this, he just went on Google, and he got old pictures. My house was started last fall. I closed in January. It is literally 600 feet from the property line. And you heard Mr. King say that the track was going to be that entire area. That means that literally part of that track will be about 600 feet from my house. So the application that he's presented to you is clearly already factually incorrect. And frankly, if he's made a mistake about how close his neighbors are, I think the entire application should be suspect. And you'll see there's 1 row of trees that separates my house from that track. And I know that he mentioned the trees and all the hardwood and all that, and I'll come back around to that in just a minute because contrary to what you might think, apparently trees don't make that much difference with sound. And there's actually a study that we've already found in just the few days that we had to prepare for this. I'm going to hand another picture out that shows a much broader area, shows the horseshoe, shows my house. And if you look to the right, I think you'll see his house further away from the track than mine. And then you'll see a big area to the right that's already starting to be cleared for a parking lot. Now, unless trucks where he comes from are significantly bigger than the ones I've ever seen in my entire life, I would say that would hold about 100. You'll also see over to the left an area that he's clearing near the track that's inexplicable. It's not in the application at all. He appears to have cleared an area just on the other side of the track that will have some use, apparently, for his 13-year-old son. And the last picture I'm going to hand out, just so you can see it better, is kind of more of an overall view. These are taken from 1,000 feet. And they simply show kind of where everything is, more in connection with the neighbors on the Millersburg Road side, which is a totally different set of problems, I think, than mine. If you look at the application, you'll see it is incredibly vague. It is, if I can find it, I apologize. Here we go. It sets the parameters of what he can really do. It says there are no proposed buildings or additions, and yet there's a big area being cleared on the other side of the track. It says he's primarily going to use it for his son. In other words, he could change his mind tomorrow and he could use it exclusively for anything else. But will also serve friends and the local community, and I don't know what local community he's talking about, because I promise you he is not talking about Christiana. On a limited basis, i.e., and by the way, i.e. doesn't even limit him to this, the weekends from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So you are literally taking his word with no assurance that that's really what he's going to do. And I have no doubt that he really thinks that now. But my point is, he could have an epiphany tomorrow. His friends could make friends on social media, and the next thing you know, it is the hot spot. Any of this could change. Currently, we and our friends are commuting 6 hours. I don't understand that because, number one, currently, because he said he lives here. 6 hours for a round trip just to practice on the weekends, and I don't understand that because if you just Google motocross tracks, Middle Tennessee, you actually find some Spring Hill, Altamont, not 6 hours, not 3 hours. Now and for the foreseeable future, we have no intention of having any AMA organized races. I'm a lawyer. I know weasel words. You know, these are weasel words. These are words that allow you to change your mind if things come along. One neighbor, less than 2,000 feet, at 600 feet, it's me. And he talks about the trees. He says there's a large graveled parking area that's existing. It's not already graveled. You've seen that in the picture. There's no limit on riders. He told you 30. If you Google motocross racing, you see at least 15 on the line. The fact that they're all apparently 13-year-olds going to show up on their own kind of raises the question of how they're going to get there. So that's obviously not something he's thought through. No limit on spectators who have to drive there. The times aren't committed to. Frankly, I think this application is an attempt to give him cover when he does expand that. But so please, please, please don't allow him to do that.
You need to try to finish.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please. Vegetation's not sufficient. I'm going to not cite to you the Netherlands study that we found that said that. Frankly, any one of these questions or issues is enough to deny the application as submitted. My wife and I, along with our 3-year-old son, bought 75 acres 3 years ago because we wanted to live in a rural area. We have chickens, bees, dogs. This is a perfect place for us to live. The last thing we need is a motocross track. I beg you not to allow this exemption. And I have a number of residents behind me who will give a much shorter version of what I said, and that was the attempt, and I apologize for taking the extra time.
You have honeybees out there?
Yes, sir, I do. So right now.
The reason I'm asked, I'm a beekeeper.
I actually
you have a spokesperson for you. If you'll keep your comments, we'll get through this as quickly as we can.
And Mr. Chairman, I think we have organized this somewhat. I think Mr. Gomes will go maybe a little bit longer, and then the rest of it will be very quick. We understand your need to get home to your family.
Thank you.
My name is Jerry Gomes. I live at 6948 Millersburg Road. I've been there for about 12 years. I am vehemently opposed to this zoning exception. It's evident to me based on the application that Mr. King's not clear what he's going to do with it, but it certainly leaves open for the possibility of expansion. If he stays within the bounds that he suggested, anywhere from 5 to 30 bikes, he states on weekends from 9 to 3, but while he was up here, he just said himself, well, maybe during the week too. So he hasn't really limited himself to the time that he's going to be on the track. It's clearly going to be noisy. It's clearly going to generate traffic in an area where the roads are narrow. and they're winding, and there's limited sight distances. 13-year-olds, as I agree, are not going to be driving themselves in. Their parents will be coming in, so that it's not going to be just 30 people. It's going to be 30 people plus their escorts. He does indicate in his maps provided that he's got some existing parking, which if you look, the area he's labeled as existing parking is that tremendous cleared field at the top portion of his outlined property, which is almost as big as the track itself. It's huge. So if you put the cursor, start at 6960, that's it. He's already started dozing the trees out there. He indicated to me when I spoke with him, it was his intention to put a horse barn in that field. And when I asked him, just a horse barn, because he told me he put in a zoning exception, he said to me, yes, just a horse barn, nothing else. So it's clearly his intention to do something else. He's going to park cars there because that's what his map says. This is going to be noisy. This is going to generate traffic. Traffic is going to generate trash. I moved out there to be rural, to be quiet. I hunt, and I do a little shooting on the side, and my wife and I enjoy a peace and quiet. We garden. This is going to be miserable. This is going to change. My property values will go down. There's no way, if he puts this in, and I choose to say, okay, I don't want to live next to this, and I try to sell my house, there's no way anyone who comes to see my house, who wants to live there in the peace and quiet like I do, is going to hear that track and buy my house. I would essentially be stuck with no remedy other than to listen to his track. Vehemently opposed. Please do not approve this.
Thank you. Next. Yeah, just come on up.
My name's Brett Cox. This is my wife, Sherry. Who's got the pointer?
She does, I think.
I was going to show you my property.
We live in Lynch Hill.
Lynch Hill, 9696.
There.
Right there?
Yes.
Right there where your cursor is. Right back to the corner, you can see where it is. Got about 1,354 feet joining Mr. King. Absolutely opposed to this. When we bought this property in 1995, if there would have been a motocross track there, we definitely would not have bought it. It's nice and it's peaceful out there. I've been working on that place for almost 20 years. That would absolutely make the property values go down, and I'm sure that everybody else has got just about the same thing to say, so that's all I've got to voice my opinion. Absolutely opposed to it, and I've got 12 hives of bees out there.
How many?
12.
Okay. Glad to hear that. Next.
Chairman, board members, my name is Donald Wilson. I live at 5768 Christiana Hoover's Gap Road. My property borders down near the bottom over there. And as far as timber being an insulatory factor for sound, regardless of the study that the other gentleman spoke of, I can tell you absolutely does not. When this gentleman or anybody else out in that vicinity is out there with a dozer, I don't even just hear the motor, I hear the actual creaking of the tracks. And I've got to be at least a quarter of a mile to a half a mile from where it's happening. When his neighbor fires a gun, I hear it. So there is no sound barrier because of those trees. He says that the bikes are really 30% quieter now in the last couple of years, but how many of these are going to be bikes that are purchased in the last couple of years? And the vagueness of what he has spoken about on this concerns me quite a bit. The fact that he says that he's going to build the track to AMA specifications, and he's going to follow everything, maximum off-speed and everything else to go under AMA guidelines, yet not going to have any AMA events in the foreseeable future, scares me. I think, as was pointed out earlier, the possibility of deception, the changing of what was said over and over again on different aspects. I'm not going to reiterate the same things, but you get my meaning as to what's being done there. And then I have just a very short list of other things that I'm concerned about. Increased traffic and roadside trash in the area. Our road, especially Millersburg Road, the road that this track would be on, is an extremely narrow road. 2 pickup trucks cannot meet each other at the same time without the extreme risk of hitting their mirrors. It's a very, very, very narrow road. And then you're going to have vehicles pulling trailers through those winding roads. And we've got kids already out there that ride bicycles at any day in the summer, usually on the weekends, but it could be any day of the week in the summer. You can sit on my front porch and you can see packs of 10, 15, 20 or more bicyclists going up and down our streets. There's some type of a bicycling club and some other things that go on out of Christiana that use our nice, quiet, very light trafficked roads for those purposes, and you start introducing what could possibly be a commercial operation and people coming in with the trailers and everything, I think that that's a very risky situation right there. And on top of that, what he said about the reference to his son's friends and local community at large rather than the limited usage, I'm worried about those things. Reference perk site included inside of the area of proposed track suggests a possible future development of bathrooms, concession stand, and/or first aid facility for potential expansion of operations. Again, stating that these are in his thing, and then there's following AMA guidelines, you need those things. And all this stuff worries us. We bought out here. I've got 6 acres. I got a couple of horses. I got a child. And we bought out here because it's a very quiet little community, very rural and very tranquil. And I've already got one neighbor that rides a quad with no muffler on it right outside of my window that wakes me up every Sunday morning. I don't need 30 more coming in the foreseeable future. Thank you. I strongly oppose.
Thank you. Next.
My name is Jennifer Powell Walden. I live at 9637, excuse me, Lynch Hill Road. We have 89 acres. I'm coming at a little bit different angle than everyone else so far because I'm the 5th generation on this farm. We live and work this piece of land, and we take great pride in it. We spend a lot of time outside working, gardening. I have bees. We sit outside a lot. I don't want that way of life compromised by the sound that this track would make. I know Aaron Duggan. I grew up with him, and I never went to his track either. So I didn't want it then, and I don't want it now. We've taken a great pride in our farm and the fact that it's been in our family since the mid-1800s. This is our heritage and our legacy, and I'm sorry, but I'm going to pass it to my kids. And how dare you come out there looking for the most rural place and want to put this thing, because we don't want it. Please don't approve it. Thank you.
Thank you. And don't cry.
My name's Scott Hess, and I've been out in this area for 3 or 4 years. My wife's family's lived out here for a very long time. Not on any given day, we do have standard four-wheelers riding up and down our road. And you can hear those four-wheelers go around our property more than a mile away. We can hear the train more than 5 miles away. And again, the trash, the narrow roads, the traffic. You say 30 bikes or even 5 bikes. This is going to be a very noisy deal. We just oppose it and don't need it.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Next.
My name is Gary Cantrell. I live at 5125 Millersburg Road, which is just to the left of the big cleared field in the middle. We've got about 45 acres out there that I bought. It's my dream retirement home. I still work, but I work from home, and I sit outside every day, and it's peaceful and it's quiet, and I listen to the birds. And that's weekends and weekdays alike. Building that track would take away what I worked for all my life. Appreciate it if you wouldn't let that happen.
Thank you.
My name's Evan McCaslin. I sent an email to each of the board members earlier in the week. First, I'd like to acknowledge Mr. King, the support that he's given his son. I know that today, in today's culture, lots of fathers are absent, so I appreciate the fact that he's supporting his son, first of all. I am opposed to it, and I'd rather he supported somewhere else, but I'm glad that he's supporting his son. I bring the same concerns that everybody else brings from the standpoint of I moved out here to deer hunt and raise my children in quiet property. One unique aspect that I would like to voice is I did grow up in north of Nashville. In Robertson County, there's a racetrack called Music City Raceway. It makes the news quite often because of what it brings out there. I was 5 miles from that track. They run 2 cars at a time, and I could hear it every time they started a car. So I don't know if you know or not, but Robertson County's got a lot more hills than Rutherford County, and even with the hills, you can still hear it. So I'm concerned with the noise pollution and what it'll bring out there. I'm opposed. Thank you.
My name is Harold Miller. I reside at 5001 Broyles Road. I've been there 41 years. I am 1 mile west of the proposed site. I'm also 3 miles east of where Mr. Duggan had his track. On any given Sunday, you could hear the bike race. You could hear the PA system. You could also hear the ambulances when they come. Anything that takes away the sound of a whippoorwill where we're at, I would have a problem with. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
My name's Charles Thomas, and I live at 7003 Christiana Hoover's Gap Road. And for all the obvious reasons that's already been mentioned, my wife and I are opposed to this track. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Well spoken.
My name is Lois Miller Short. I live at 5823 Christiana Hoover's Gap Road. I also own 5830 that backs up to his property. I object to this because I work 5 days a week, 10 hours a day, and I look forward to my weekends on peace and quiet. Please don't approve.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Lois Short.
My name is Ken Hill. I live at 9262 Lynch Hill Road and also on 9352 Lynch Hill Road. This property's been in my family for generations. I back up right to the east fence of the proposed track. Prevailing winds also come to my back door, so anybody that slams a door or even speaks on his property sounds like it's right at my back door. So I also would like to say that I've rebuilt the farmhouse that my grandmother grew up in. The farmhouse is almost 200 years old. And right now it's a rental, and it's based on the fact that I tell those people that they will have peace and quiet because it is peaceful and quiet there. And I am against this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I am Susan Brothers Yancey. I live at 5325 Millersburg Road. I live on, it's 167 acres that has been in my family over 100 years. I look forward to passing this down to my daughters in future generations. And what I love about living out there when I was inherited the land that I did not realize, I always heard my grandfather talk about the quiet and that he would plow the mules by the moonlight, which I never understood, but you can. But the quiet out there, as they already talked about, you can hear the train at Christiana. You can hear the interstate. My driveway is 0.2 of a mile long. I can hear people walking on the road, but not only can I hear them talking as they're walking, I can hear what they're saying. The sound out there just travels. The echo is amazing. But with that comes the peace and the quiet. And I don't want that to go away. My husband is a runner. He's out on the road. I don't want this extra traffic. I don't want the chance of something happening to him, getting hit, or my girls on their bikes, or me out walking. So please, let us, have this for future generations. Please don't approve this.
Thank you.
My name is Mark Saltalamacchia. Try to spell that one. I live at 9494 Lynch Hill Road. Mr. King is doing a great thing for his kid, but I would invite Mr. King to my house on a Sunday morning to have coffee on my porch. And I'd say any of our neighbors would invite you to do the same thing. Mr. King has proposed something that's going to take away that coffee time. The idea that we can sit there and we can hear the nature. I have a crazy dog that's running through the woods barking, but that's not the point. The point is, he's going to be one of our neighbors now, and instead of you sitting there listening to these motorcycles just winding out, man, come over and have coffee. It's something that you just, I can't explain it to you till you've done it. What we have, all of us in this room, run the risk of losing. And that's something that the reason that you get this many people here. So many of these neighbors in here, we've never met. But when the idea of interrupting our way of life has brought us all together, so I thank you for that. Please deny this.
Thank you. We'll close the public hearing. No, sir. We'll close the public hearing. We're not here to debate this issue. And, we can go back and forth, and I appreciate everything that everybody says. Now, as a stickler, those of you who know me, I follow the law completely, no other way. And I'll point out to you the staff findings on this is this proposal fails to meet all of the general requirements for special exemption approval and specific standards for outdoor entertainment and amusement. That's the bottom line. It does not meet our requirements. I'll entertain a motion.
And I'll make a motion we deny the request based on what you just stated.
Motion that be denied. Second. Call the roll, please.
Gary Farley.
Yes.
Joe Machado.
Yes.
Jerry Sartain.
Yes.
Michael Rather.
Yes.
Jared Barrett.
Yes.
Zane Cantrell.
Yes. Do we have any other business that needs to come before the board?
No, sir.
Thank you, everyone. We appreciate your comments. We appreciate the proposal. We are adjourned.